How are you guys doing today? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV, and welcome to the match review of our very well and hard fought 1-1 draw against Wolves today. For me, this was a very good point because Wolverhampton Wanderers were fantastic today. I do want to warn people that if you're feeling quite angry about not getting the 3 points today, this match review might not be the best one for you because I've got a completely different take on the game. I see it completely differently today. And personally, I feel like we as fans, we don't respect opposition teams enough. But before I get into that, today's video is brought to you by the One Football app. You guys, thank you to everyone that helps support me by downloading the app from the link in the description below. Everyone always says all the time that it's so convenient, of course, because it's a very good way to get information quickly because of the alert system. As I keep saying every single time, you can tailor the news you want in regards to, club news or player news by following them on the One Football app and then getting constant daily alerts on them from news all across Europe. It's a very nice feature. If you guys want that, in the link in the description below will be a link to the One Football app. Getting straight into the review, starting with the lineup. And let's be serious, we weren't really surprised. I feel like that was the best lineup Sarri could pick at that moment in time. You know that Ruben isn't fit enough to start for 90 minutes just yet. And we know that with Callum Hudson-Odoi, Sarri wants to be more patient and he wants to slowly integrate him into the team. But of course, these two did have an impact later on in this game. But Emerson started the game as well today. And it's quite obvious now that Sarri doesn't see Marcos Alonso as his undisputed number one player. It's been a while since he's really said anything positive about Marcos Alonso or anything encouraging about the player. So it really lets you know that he hasn't been quite happy with his performances. And it's good to know that Emerson is getting that opportunity to shine now. And I think he's doing pretty well. Now, I'm going to talk about the tactics from Wolves very briefly because it really sets the precedent for today's match review. Now, Wolves were extremely defensive. The most defensive team we faced this season. They didn't care about pressing Jorginho. They didn't care about really pressing high. The only times that they had the ball in our half was from counter-attacks, and to really help them keep the ball in those areas, you see guys like Jota and Jimenez, stretch a play, go out wide to hold up the ball. And that was their game plan, really. But when it came to defending, I've got to give them credit. It was a fantastic defensive display where there weren't many mistakes, very tight. It was impossible for us to play through them. And they really set the precedent for the game where it was like, if you're going to beat us, you have to produce something magical, something top class. In the end, we did that. But Wolves need to gain our respect. It's not a surprise. I mean, their form against the top clubs this season has been impressive. It's not the first time that they've got a result against a top team. So they've shown that their way of playing works, it's profitable for them, and they need to be respected. Off the ball, Wolves did have a 5-4-1 shape, and you can imagine that it was impossible to play through them. We couldn't have the ball between the lines. Wolves didn't care about closing the ball down. They cared about keeping their defensive position, playing off the ball. And of course, when you've got a team that don't care about winning the ball back, it does slow the pace of the game down, and it does make things more difficult. Now, I'm going to get into our performance later on soon, but I want to pose a question to all of you. How are you supposed to beat a team like this? Now, of course, people might quote teams like Man City's and Liverpool's and Barcelona's. Yeah, they might be able to beat a team like this a bit more convincingly. But at the same time, let's be serious. Throughout the course of a season, are teams like Barcelona and Man City, playing in games like this with this type of intensity, thrashing a team like Wolves today 4-5-0, let's be serious now. No, they're not. They'd be lucky to get a win, a draw, or win by a 2-goal margin. They really would. And for me, when I was scrolling through social media, the impression I was getting from all the tweets I was reading was the fact that the players aren't good enough to really elevate the system, because when you're playing football at this element, at this level, a lot of the good things you do comes down to individual play and the class of the player. So the more good players you have, the better they're going to be in these areas because they're going to have the advantage. The way Wolves defended today reminded me of how we used to defend as a team. I mean, we still did it. I mean, the games against Man City show that. We still have that in our locker. But it was a great defensive display. And I was seeing our players trying really hard. I'm sorry, What counts as a bad performance? Normally for me, a bad performance is when the players aren't putting effort in, poor touches on the ball, losing the ball very easily. No real desire in that sense. But can fans really say today that we never saw that desire? No, I think that would be a lie if you say it's not. I looked at this game, I could hear the fans the first 30 minutes of this game applauding the team for how many amazing great bits of play or individual moments of skill. And then 15 minutes later, when the halftime whistle blows, they're booing the team. I mean, are people not really registering what they're seeing? You've been applauding the team for half an hour of this game. You're telling me that last 50 minutes was so poor and they deserve the boo? Of course not. And I think it comes down to maybe how naive we can be as fans. You know, hey, listen, I'm not saying that I don't fall into this. I fall into this every single time because I'm a fan and it's what we do. But it has to get to a point where we need to respect the opposition team we're playing against. Now, I said earlier why Wolves have been so impressive and why they need to be respected. But with their performance today, honestly, as I was tweeting today, it was a case of two good teams cancelling each other out. I'm sorry. Wolves were on point defensively, rarely any defensive mistakes. And that, some of the small mistakes they made today cost them a goal. But I'm going to speak about how Sarri managed to turn things around for us to give us that advantage. But before that, I thought that we were doing what we had to do. Now, I can imagine that a lot of people might be saying, but Nini, all it is just pass. There's no penetration. But again, if you listen to my point about respecting our opponents, Wolves set out in a system with a tactic to slow down the game, to be defensive, to have it played like this. They didn't move. So naturally, it is going to slow the pace of the game down. Now, people might think, well, if the passing isn't going to work, let's try something different. But you have to look at the squads and the solutions we can actually do. I mean, number one, if we start putting crosses in the box, all that's going to be doing is we're going to be losing the ball in the final third. We also create so many counter-attacks because of that. And I think that's what Wolves were expecting. They wanted us to play desperate today. They wanted us to force the play, to lose possession time and time again. That's exactly how they've beaten the rest of the big teams this season, all gotten points against them. So Sarri tactically was on point. Nini, why don't we take enough long shots? Again, during the majority of this game, there was no space in midfield for anyone to attempt any long shots. So that was impossible to happen. And we don't have the players or the personnel to play a more direct game where, we miss the midfield, we bypass it, and we pump long balls in the box. We don't have the team for that. Wolves put in a top defensive performance today, so they do get my respect for that. And I feel like we as fans should respect that because they made things difficult. We were good today. I saw the desire in the players. I saw the movement. I saw Hazard moving across the pitch, on the right, on the left, Pedro doing the same thing. The balls, we weren't playing unnecessary passes in our own half. Everything was in midfield. We were making things happen. The play was quite quick at times, but Wolves were on point today. And I think because Wolves were so good, this is where Sarri made the tactical changes I think a lot of people have been hoping to see from him. But I'm going to sound a bit cynical. I've been saying, end of the day, it doesn't really make a difference. Now, of course, the positives today, Sarri's game management, it was on point. No one can criticise him for that. Ruben came on very early, and he would have come on 5 minutes earlier if the ball went out of play. Hudson-Odoi comes on 3 minutes after around the 60th mark. Sarri knew what type of game Wolves were posing, and he knew that the big boys had to come out. The good attacking players needed to come because with the games at its bare elements like this, it comes down a lot of times to who wins that 1v1 battle. And is that not what top football is about? A player versus another player. Who's going to win the duel? Who's going to win the encounter? Who's going to come out on top? And because it was quite even, Sarri used his most attacking lineup I think that we'll rarely ever see. We saw Jorginho coming off for Willian. We were playing kind of like a 4-2-3-1, more like a 4-2-4 at times. But Hazard had that free role to do what he wanted. But this is interesting now. I think with this game, I can't really judge my thoughts on whether the system paid off because we have to see it, for more minutes and in more games. But until that Hazard goal, and that was the individual moment of class I've been talking about, that type of class you need to get something from a game like this. Before that, I felt like the play was a bit too narrow. I can understand why Aspie had to move in field more because, Sarri wants Hudson-Odoi to go 1v1 out wide. That makes tactical sense and that's what you do. But sometimes, the theoretical stuff doesn't necessarily work in a practical sense. Aspie, when football's played like this, that's when you realise that he does have a few technical limitations. He does. But again, if Sarri's going to do this, you're going to need Aspie playing more in field a bit more to cover that half space position. But at the same time, I did see some positives, even though the play was a bit more narrow. I think that Playing this way definitely created a bit more space against Wolverhampton. I think the fact that we had so many attacking players going 1v1 against their defensive players was giving us an edge at times. We noticed that Wolves were giving away a lot more free kicks near the end of the game as well. And I definitely think that came through that pressure we were applying right at the end. But even then, with everything that happened, the fans still booed the team at the end of this game. Now, for me, this is crazy. This makes no sense. Did you not see what type of game we played today? Did you not see the effort from the players? Did you not see the manager thinking of every positive solution to give us that little small boost we needed, which eventually helped us get the equaliser? I don't understand, and I think sometimes a lot of fans, they do it to themselves at times. What you take out from football, you take from how you view it, and I think some people just don't view it in the right context. If I was a player, I played this game today, and I heard the fans boo me afterwards, I'd be thinking, what was there to boo? Like, really? What was there? Sarri made all the types of substitutions that you'd want to see at those particular times. He changed the formation. All our best attacking players were playing today. Yeah, we fought something out through the ends. But it just goes to show you just how great Wolverhampton Wanderers were. That they really pushed us to our limits, that Sarri really had to make desperate things happen. And come on, when you view a season of football, you get games like this where, a team is cancelling you out. You're not necessarily playing badly, which I don't think we were. I don't think we were that slow either. I keep saying it all the time. I know it's boring. I just think that Wolves were just so good today that they made it a very hard game. And for me, I like these types of games. I find it boring sometimes when you're playing against a weaker team where you're going to just dominate them. They have no chance against you and you're just waiting for the goals to come. They're the types of games that you say, I want to see 5 or 6 goals scored. But is it really always that fun? I don't know. Sometimes I like the enjoyment of two teams playing, to their best abilities, trying to get the point or the 3 points, trying to get that win, That's what football's about to me. And I thought this game really signified that. But a lot of positives today. I think Sarri, I think with the selections of players he used, it really gives you an idea of how he's starting to see things. And I think the season's going to be pretty positive. I feel like we could have a positive end. But you guys, that's going to bring an end for today's match review. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lions TV. Signing out.